Putting yourself in creation mode is literally the most powerful thing you can do on this planet. You're probably here because you're trying to improve yourself. If you do anything but control your internal conversations, which is where the creative act happens, it is just quibbles. Thoughts become things. So your inner conversations will harden into reality. When you begin to take back your power, you begin to use the phrase, I am the creator. This is the ultimate form of power, because then you can say, well, if I am the creator, I can change my thoughts into something that I do love and admire, and therefore that will be reflected outwards into the world. Thoughts become things. All too often what happens is that we self-scare. So for a lot of creatives, they end up not doing a creative thing because they have these narratives in their head like, oh, I'm not good enough, that person is so much better than me. All these narratives combine, and then they harden into a reality of self-scaring. When I self-scare, I don't actually do the thing. If I don't do that for several days, that's called creative procrastination. If I don't do that over several weeks, it's called I have creative resistance. And if I scale all these things back, it has to do with the inner conversations that are going inside of my mind. But the creative turn, that creative shift, putting ourselves into that creation mode, is to begin to become conscious of our inner conversation. We all have our highest desires. These are things that we would really want to happen and make manifest into the world. It is by living in that wish fulfilled that we give order to our minds, and we can begin to harness the power of our internal conversations. When we are in that mindless consumption mode, we are very reactive towards the world. Therefore, if something happens, in my last video, the one that blew up, I'm at a traffic light and I'm not living in my wish fulfilled, and I see someone wilding out and they're projecting their guilt and their shame and all their negative feelings onto me, I am going to internalize it because my mind is empty, and therefore they have a convenient way of thinking that can enter my mind. If I'm living in the wish fulfilled and I have intention towards the future, those outside forces will bounce off me because they are not naturally congruent with the way that I am going. If you ever look at all your fears, at the core of it is a feeling of powerlessness. That is what it is. I know that I had arachnophobia. I was scared of spiders, and I couldn't shake it. And it was until I began to live in my wish fulfilled and I seen a spider, and I was so tired from Muay Thai, I just couldn't care anymore. I actually caught the spider, put it in a glass, and moved it out of the house. And I've never done that before in my life. That's what we call growth. When you are walking in that creative, conscious, congruence matter, isn't that me living in the future? No, that's incorrect tense, because you are living in your wish fulfilled now. A forward projection into the future, when it's negative, is what we call anxiety, and therefore we self-scare about an imaginal act that will happen into the future. When we have a negative reflection of the past, we are depressing our expression, therefore we are feeling these negative states of hopelessness. Living in the wish fulfilled is a dance with destiny. I am literally conscious congruence. That's why I'm not suffering. I end up feeling joy, happiness, ecstasy, these kinds of feelings, because I'm in creation mode. I'm in a high frequency. My thoughts are literally aligned with my end vision. But this mindless consumption, reactive towards the world, anything can happen, I'm always on edge, that's that low frequency mindset, and that's a negative state. But at that core of that is also feeling powerless, because if anything can come into my energy and impact me, I simultaneously say that I am powerless. If I truly believe I am the creator, that means I'm in a state of power. That means I can own everything in my life. Even if something negative happens, I can give myself relief because I am the creator. And I do that by controlling my internal conversation. It's hard to really harness the idea of I am, is because I have to simultaneously appreciate that the things that are around me right now that are incongruent or misaligned with my highest desires is also my fault, and that's okay. I don't hold myself in shame and contempt. I just realize that the things that are around me right now that I don't like is really a reflection of my misuse of my imagination, and I can make it right now. I can begin to prune and revise the script, and that's really the creative act. It's like if negative things happen to you in the past, you can revise the script. If you had a day that didn't go to plan, before you sleep at night, you can begin to revise it and see it a different way. People often say that whenever we recount the past, we make up a large portion of it. It's like, why can't I make it up and revise it to my own liking? That's really the superpower. That's me living in creation mode. That's a whole nother conversation about revision. But remember that these tools are always available to you. You don't have to accept the world as it is. The world is not as it is as you are. Intention invalidates, imagination infiltration. So my entire life I wore glasses, and only recently I started to experiment with contact lenses. I always felt iffy about them, but because I train martial arts so much, they're kind of needed. I just felt that, I'm sticking my finger up my eyeball, and that's really weird and it feels dangerous or something. And that's always been in my mind. Now, I feared that, of course, something bad would go wrong, and something bad happened yesterday. So I get my right contact lens out of my eye, and then I go to take the left one out, and it's like glued down to my eye, and I start panicking. And it was after 9:30 p.m., so my eye doctor was closed, and there was nothing I could do about it. And I kept digging in my eye, and it was turning red, and I'm like, I might have to go to the hospital because I can't sleep with the contact lens in because you could lose your vision, or like all these doomsday scenarios are run through your head. And I was panicking and panicking, and then I just sat there and said, what am I doing? And it was no coincidence, like literally right before this, I was reading Neville Goddard, thinking a lot about states of minds and consciousness. And I said, let me think rationally about this. And I started to revise the situation. I was like, okay, it's gonna come out. I know it's gonna make it out of my eye. And just that little bit of grace allowed me to think like, okay, let's check online and see, because this must have happened to other people. I just persisted that I knew it was going to work. I know I'm not going to no ER, and this is Canadian ER, so I might have to wait like 36 hours in there. And I began to see myself as someone who got the contact lens out effortlessly. I slowly peeled on the contact lens and dragged it to the side of my eye, and it came out so easily. And I just look back at the situation that, though it might seem something small, it's like I stressed and panicked myself. I was gouging in my eye. For what? I scared myself. I attracted the worst case scenario because I was so afraid of it. It eventually happened to me. The situation in itself is neutral. I just re-wet my eye and then peel off the contact lens. But because I added so much lore to it, I created a situation that was doomsday, and that aligned with my deepest fear, the thing that I constantly felt deeply. Literally, I manifested that wish fulfilled. And that story highlights the power of creation mode, because the moment I started seeing myself as a creator, the entire script changed. I stopped seeing myself as like a doomsday, I'm super afraid, to started seeing it as like, it's gonna work out in my favor. I can control the script. And this translates to our creative visions, because the moment we start seeing ourselves as a creator, we can begin to create alignment. And then when we set our intention on living that wish fulfilled, we'll have random synchronicities, and we'll start meeting the right people and doing the right thing, all because we put our attention and had intention towards our highest purpose. So doubt and negative infiltration cannot exist, because we are in that state of creation, which is really the ultimate flow state. That's greatness on display. God energy. Let's go.